Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be simulating Prehistoric Texas for 100 days. And all the dinosaurs that I show in this video actually lived in Texas. Now let's get right into this. On day 1, I started off by introducing the iguanodons. The iguanodon immediately ran to get a drink of water. He must have been thirsty, because he drank water here for about probably 3 minutes. Then, the other iguanodon came running towards the watering hole. Once his friend made it, they drank water together. And this is the main watering source of the whole map. So most of the dinosaurs will come here to drink water. After the iguanodons were done drinking water, they started migrating towards the other side of the map. Meanwhile, the other group of iguanodons were getting adjusted to their new habitat. And everything seemed peaceful until I introduced the world to its new predator, the Deinonychus.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome the Deinonychus.
The Deinonychus was running around the fields very fast. Meanwhile, the other Deinonychus got into a fight with an iguanodon. The Deinonychus backed down. Meanwhile, the other iguanodons were having a snack. Night was approaching, and a stray iguanodon was coming back to his pack. Later that night, a Deinonychus was being chased down by an iguanodon. Meanwhile, a Deinonychus and an iguanodon got in a fight. And just like last time, the Deinonychus backed down. And a Deinonychus tried to fight an iguanodon, but ended up dying. Meanwhile, the other Deinonychus seemed lonely. And the second to last Deinonychus got killed off by the iguanodon. Meanwhile, a brand new species was introduced. The pterosaur. Immediately, he ran to get a drink of water, as most dinosaurs do. After that, he ran to the other side of the map to get some food. Now it was night, and the iguanodons were drinking some water. And the last Deinonychus was in the middle of the lake. Then it was morning, once again. And the iguanodons were doing great. Meanwhile, the pterosaurs were amazing. And the last Deinonychus was dying. out of thirst. Meanwhile, a brand new apex predator was coming. The Acrocanthosaurus. He was charging towards the watering hole, full speed ahead. And the Deinonychuses were officially extinct. And with night approaching and the Acrocanthosaurus getting closer and closer to the watering hole, there is no telling what was about to happen. Meanwhile, a new predator was here, the Herrerasaurus. Later that night, another predator was arising from the shadows, the Ceratosaurus. The Acrocanthosaurus had already killed an iguanodon. Meanwhile, the Ceratosaurus was scaring away all the iguanodons away from the watering hole while he was just trying to get a drink. After he got his drink, the Herrerasaurus wanted to fight. Unsurprisingly, the Herrerasaurus backed down. And after that, the iguanodon wanted to fight with the Ceratosaurus. The Ceratosaurus had killed the iguanodon. Meanwhile, on the other side of the island, a Herrerasaurus wanted to fight with an iguanodon. Surprisingly, the iguanodon backed down. Meanwhile, the Acrocanthosaurus wanted to fight a torosaur. Is it just me, or is everyone wanting to fight? The Acrocanthosaurus won. And the Herrerasauruses were doing great. And the same can be said for the iguanodons. Meanwhile, on the other side of the island, a brand new species was introduced, the Edmontosaurus. Meanwhile, the Ceratosaurus and Herrerasaurus got into a fight. Who will win? The answer being no one. The Herrerasaurus backed down. Not long later, the Ceratosaurus and Acrocanthosaurus got into a fight, and things weren't looking good for the Acrocanthosaurus. The Acrocanthosaurus had lost to the Ceratosaurus. Later that night, the other Edmontosaurus ended up dying, and this was the only Edmontosaurus left. Later in the night, the Herrerasaurus is hunting the Edmontosaurus. And for the Ceratosaurus, the night was short because he slept through it. Meanwhile, the Ceratosaurus got into a fight with the Torosaur. The Torosaur had lost. Meanwhile, the Iguanodons were having a snack. And the carnivores were having a feast. Meanwhile, a brand new species, something sinister, a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Meanwhile, a Ceratosaurus was fighting an Iguanodon. The Iguanodon had died. And in the middle of all of that, this Herrerasaurus had ended up killing this Iguanodon. Meanwhile, the Tyrannosaurus Rex was making his way closer to the watering hole. And the Tyrannosaurus Rex was finally here. And later that evening, the Ceratosaurus got in a fight with the T-Rex. The Tyrannosaurus Rex had won the fight. Meanwhile, a brand new species was introduced, the Chasmosaurus. And on the other side of the island, another species was introduced, the Sauropelta. Meanwhile, the Chasmosaurus was drinking water. And the Sauropelta found a good source of food. And in the morning, he also found a good source of water. And the Herrerasaurus was running away from the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And just like that, we've simulated prehistoric Texas in Jurassic World Evolution. We've seen crazy battles, fierce hunters, dinosaurs that are at the very bottom of the food chain, to the dinosaurs that are at the very top. We've built a successful ecosystem. So on, folks. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Bye!